Every so often, a car company builds something that makes you sit up, spill your drink, and say, hang on, they actually did this? And in 1989, Chevrolet managed exactly that with the XT-2, a machine that looked like a Camaro had mated with a sci-fi pickup truck, borrowed a Corvette suspension, and then moonlighted as an IndyCar pace vehicle. It was called Experimental Truck 2, which sounds about as glamorous as a washing machine prototype, but under that sterile name sat one of the most radical concept trucks General Motors ever attempted. Now, most concept trucks of the 1980s were little more than showpieces. Plastic body cladding, a bit of neon trim, and maybe a silly roof tent. The kind of thing that looked futuristic on the Detroit show stand, but was utterly useless in the real world. The XT2, however, was different. It wasn't built just to spin slowly on a turntable while people in double-breasted suits nodded politely. It was designed to work. Specifically, it was designed to lead a field of IndyCars running at 200 miles per hour. That meant it had to be fast, safe, and capable of embarrassing most sports cars of the day. Had its hard Saturn engine that owed more to the racetrack than any pickup showroom. Instead of a big lazy V8 like the El Camino had offered, Chevrolet went with a 4.5-litre 90-degree V6, built with bow-tie racing components. It produced 360 horsepower and 315 pound-feet of torque, which in 1989 made it one of the most powerful V6s on the planet. With a tube-frame chassis, integrated roll cage, and a curb weight that undercut most passenger cars, the XT2 could launch itself to 60 in under 6 seconds and cover the quarter mile in around 13. Numbers that for the era put it squarely into Corvette and Mustang territory. And yet, it wasn't just about raw grunt. The XT2 borrowed heavily from Chevrolet's performance catalog, most notably a Corvette-derived suspension that made sure it didn't handle like a refrigerator on stilts. Being mid-development, the engineers actually went through multiple versions before finalizing this layout. The earliest sketch of the XT2 had its engine buried under the bed, almost like a Group B rally truck. Another proposal experimented with a front-wheel drive or even all-wheel drive layout, almost predicting the crossover wave that would take over 15 years later. But in the end, they settled on something that felt logical for the time, a Camaro-like front-engine, rear-wheel drive sports truck. Now visually, it was a head-turner. From the side, you got shades of IROC Camaro, but stretched into a pickup silhouette that made you do a double take. The most outrageous feature was the windshield, which was the largest piece of curved glass PPG had ever produced. It hinged upwards on gas struts, taking the top of the dashboard with it, and allowed direct access to the V6 underneath. The rear was just as unusual. The bed floor was removable, giving easy reach to the drivetrain. This was practicality in the loosest possible sense of the word. Then there was the paint. If you've ever wondered what the late 80s thought the future looked like, the XT2's finish summed it up perfectly. A 3-stage PPG process layered blue mica over red base, producing a body that shimmered electric blue in sunlight and shifted to a deep purple in the dark. Subtle it was not. Parked under the lights at an Indy event, it looked less like a pickup and more like a spaceship that had decided to wear Chevrolet badges. On paper, the XT2 looked like the kind of thing you'd expect GM to have built a few of, tested as a pace truck, and then quietly buried. But here's the crucial bit. Unlike most one-off prototypes, it wasn't entirely an exercise in silliness. The XT2 was Chevrolet's way of testing the waters for a new category, the sporty, lifestyle-oriented pickup, a sort of halfway house between the Camaro and the S10. It made sense in context. Pontiac, Chevrolet's equally confused cousin at the time, had its own futuristic truck-ish concept called the Stinger, complete with a removable picnic table and portable radios. The Stinger was more of a family gadget on wheels, and its DNA eventually surfaced years later in the tragically awkward Pontiac Aztek. The XT-2 by contrast though, was built for speed and theatre. GM was essentially hedging its bets. Do people want fun, utility-driven small SUVs, or do they want muscle trucks with sports car body lines? The irony, of course, is that both of these ideas would come true. The SUV crossover boom would define the 2000s, while the performance truck segment took off in the 90s with monsters like the GMC Cyclone and later the Ford SVT Lightning. The XT2 in hindsight was simply a few years too early and a little too extreme. But imagine it for a second, a production version of this thing, toned down for the showroom, could have stolen headlines in the same way the Cyclone did. A Camaro-sourced pickup with Corvette suspension and a 360 horse V6 would have been the perfect halo truck for Chevrolet in the early 90s. But instead, what we got was one pace truck, a few magazine features, and a lot of what-ifs. Looking back now, the XT2 feels like a glorious dead end in GM's design history. It was too outrageous, too specialized, and too tied to motorsport to ever make sense as a consumer product. But it was also proof that Chevrolet, when it wanted to, could push boundaries far beyond the safe, boring cars that it often churned out. But at the end of this video, please let me know what you guys think of the video and the story of the XT2. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe to the channel. And if you guys did like it, you'll most probably enjoy most of my other stuff. So just go through my channel, see if there's someone else I like. I'll check you guys in the next one. Cheers,